always been interested in the Mayan civilization. It was absolutely fascinating to me how what I thought were primitive people could build such tremendous buildings and cities. So, who were the Mayans, and what was their civilization like? A quick summary could go like this. The Maya pre-classic period lasted from 1800 BC to 300 AD. During that period, the Mayan civilization began to flourish as trade routes expanded to include jade and obsidian and cocoa. There were advances in the cultivation of corn and the beginning of more complex agricultural practices and the beginning of the construction of pyramids and urban centers. Mayan civilization advanced to new heights throughout the classic period of 300 to 900 AD, a time of intellectual, artistic, and political development that established the Maya as one of the most advanced civilizations in the world. It was during this time that Tikal, Palenque, Uxmal, and other remarkable city-states were established and flourished. These large cities, characterized by imposing temples, broad causeways, and open-air plazas, were also important trade centers. Innovation in arts, medicine, and sciences, especially in the areas of mathematics and astronomy, were phenomenal. By 36 BC, the Maya developed the concept of zero. This was a basis for astronomical observations and calculations, extremely accurate even by today's standards. In fact, the Maya measurement of the solar year is slightly more accurate than the Gregorian calendar used today. But the Mayans also had their flaws and were ignorant of the effects of climate change that widespread deforestation caused. They needed to cut down a great number of trees to burn limestone in order to make stucco and mortar. The results were a 200-year drought that, combined with the exhaustion of agriculture and natural resources, were most likely the cause for the decline of the Maya civilization. The great Maya centers of the southern lowlands began to decline between 700 and 900 AD, and many of their great cities, such as Tikal, were abandoned. So this is the Coche Caribbean Paradise Hotel. It's about 1 hour's drive from Cancun Airport. It's our adjoining hotel, and it looks like a pretty good hotel. Right downtown, right at the Four Corners here, so it's a very good location. Of course, I'm trying to get to sleep, and right outside my hotel window, this is what's going on. Way to Merida, we stopped for a tour of Chichen Itza. Dominating Chichen Itza is a huge pyramid of Kukulkan, or the Castillo. In the spring and autumn equinoxes, the northwest corner of the pyramid casts a series of triangular shadows that evokes the appearance of a serpent wriggling down the staircase, which some scholars have suggested is a representation of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan. Inside the pyramid, another 9-level pyramid was built. The Great Ball Court of Chichen Itza is the largest in Mesoamerica. The dimensions of the court are so grand that it is difficult to envisage actual games being played here. The relief carvings on the walls of the court reminds us of the ritual functions of the ball games. There is a scene of two 7-man teams facing each other and one team captain decapitating the losing captain of the opposition. There seemed to be a great influence of the Toltecs on the Maya. This is due in large part because the architecture of the Temple of the Warriors and eagle platforms in other areas are of the Toltec style and were constructed after 900 AD. However, the nunnery, iglesia, and other buildings are of the Maya style and were constructed beginning about 700 AD by Maya emigres from the Puc region. It's a live band in the background. Everybody's out. Beautiful. Just as Sinatas, a Loltun cave, as other caves, were considered sacred by the Mayan people. They believed these caves were the entrances to the underworld where their gods lived. We also saw red hand paintings on the wall left by the cave's original occupants. These have been carbon dated to about 10,000 BC. The Maya were not the first people to make use of the cave, and they must have been as mystified by such paintings as we are today. People lived there by about 10,000 BC, but by 100 AD it was used only for religious purposes.
This is called the Cathedral on Natural Formation. 45 meters underground, and now we have to go back up. We're now going from Loltun, the cave, to the first of the archaeological sites. Typical Mayan house. You can see how it's made. Beautiful spot. A snake with a face inside which represents the Mayan people. And
This is a ceremonial walkway once capped with brilliant white limestone. Labna dates from 600 to 900 AD and housed approximately 1,500 people. Only the king, warriors, priests, and commercial people lived inside. Ordinary people lived on the outskirts and rarely came inside the city. The arch at Labna is famous for being one of the most intricately decorated yet discovered in the world of the ancient Maya. Chalk masks are seen on both of the arch's upper corners. Carvings of stylized Mayan huts appear above the doorways.
He said that all of the priests from all the surrounding towns, including Uxmal, came here to offer sacrifices. This represents the Aztec god Tlaloc, but in the middle is Chak, the Mayan god, and again the outside the Aztec god. Between the archaeological sites. Yes, just a small part has been excavated of this place. 91 rooms in this complex, housing 350 people. I'm on the first level here. Look at the beautiful stones and the sandstone there. Magnificent. This is a palace. Down to see the cathedral here, and this is a main square. It looks pretty good.
The next day, Tuesday, February the 14th, was going to be a long traveling day, but Iris stopped at Uxmal so we could see this beautiful city. Uxmal was founded in 500 AD. Unlike many other Maya sites, no stone quarry has been found at Uxmal. Where the Maya quarried the stone and how they conveyed it to the site without the wheel or beast of burden is unknown. There are no springs, rivers, or cenotes in Uxmal. The residents of Uxmal relied upon cistern water collection systems that were totally dependent upon rain. One can easily understand the importance of their reverence to the Mayan rain god Chak. The Pyramid of the Magician is the tallest building at Uxmal with a height of 115 feet and unusual round corners and steepness. It was built in the 6th century AD and regularly expanded through the 10th century. There are actually 5 pyramids there, each larger and built over the one beneath. The nunnery quadrangle was actually a 74-room governmental palace. It is the finest of Uxmal's quadrangles of long buildings with elaborately carved facades on both the inside and outside faces. A large ball court was dedicated in the year 901 AD. The governor's palace was built in the 9th and 10th centuries. Its 320-foot-long mosaic facade features 103 stone masks of the rain god Chak. There is an open plaza in front of the palace containing the jaguar throne.
then if you compare at the level where we are, you see that? It's lower. That means we are in the underworld. And then the big-headed guy goes straight to the upper.
To Palenque, and the first few hills are starting to appear.
The Palenque ruins date from around 200 BC to 800 AD. It is a medium-sized site, much smaller than such huge sites as Tikal or Chichen Itza, but it contains some of the finest architecture, sculpture, and bas-relief carvings that the Mayas produced. Palenque is perhaps the most studied and written about of all Mayan sites. Skull deformation was practiced among Mayan royalty. A baby's head was bound between two boards and thus deformed. It was thought to be a sign of nobility and beauty. Men drilled holes in their teeth and put in jade and other ornaments or phylum to make a T. This was considered attractive to women.
Look at the spikes on the tree. Can you see the spikes?
This is the Temple of the Red Queen.
And now the gate closes, and this is it.
We're going to the inside of the Temple of the Red Queen. Wow. Isn't that fascinating?
The Red Queen was a noblewoman, possibly the wife of Pakal. The remains in the sarcophagus were completely covered with a bright red powder made of cinnabar. It has been dated from between 600 to 700 AD. In the center, occupying almost all of the burial chamber, was a limestone sarcophagus closed by a stone lid. The remains of 2 sacrificial victims were also found in the tomb. Pakal the Great was born in March of 603 and became ruler of Palenque at the age of 12 and ruled until his death 68 years later. Pakal was responsible for the construction or extension of some of Palenque's most notable surviving inscriptions and monumental architecture. He was buried in the Temple of Inscriptions, so named for the hieroglyphics found inside. The tomb itself is remarkable for its large carved sarcophagus, the rich ornaments accompanying Pakal, and for the stucco sculpture decorating the walls of the tomb. The palace, a complex of several connected and adjacent buildings and courtyards, was built by several generations on a wide artificial terrace during a 4th century period. The palace was used by the Mayan aristocracy for bureaucratic functions, entertainment, and ritualistic ceremonies. Within the palace there are numerous sculpture and bas-relief carvings that have been conserved. The palace's most unusual and recognizable feature is a 4-story tower known as the Observation Tower. The palace was equipped with numerous large baths and saunas which were supplied with fresh water by an intricate water system. Carvings of the rulers' heads were on these walls. These were chopped off by an angry population when the rain stopped. Approximately 10,000 trees had to be cut down and burned to produce the stucco for this palace. Bloodletting was performed in a courtyard like this by royalty in a rite visible to the public. The tongue of the woman was pierced and a rope with thorns attached passed through to produce blood. A man's genitals were pierced to produce blood. This blood was then mixed with paper and the paper burned as an offering to the gods. Intermarriage among close relatives of royalty was common and produced birth defects such as club feet, cross eyes, 6 toes, or albino skin. Pakal's son Khan Balam is usually depicted with 6 toes. People with defects as those were considered special and holy.
myself and a few others decided to walk down to the road and the museum. We're now heading down to the launch, to the boat as we're going down the river. We're heading down the Machita River. So we're climbing up to the This is a small acropolis. That's a ball court. It's structures 10, 13, 74, and 11. This is the Great Acropolis. I don't think I'm gonna walk up there because I'm low on water.
The known history of Yaxchilan starts with the enthronement of Balaam I, most likely in 359 AD. He was a founder of a long dynasty and took the throne when Yaxchilan was still a minor site. The rivalry with Piedras Negras had already begun by the 5th century AD, with both cities struggling to dominate the Usumacinta River trade route. Not I, Jaguar I was a warlike king who was recorded as capturing nobles from Bonampak and Tikal. Yaxchilan reached its greatest power during the reigns of King Balaam II, who died in his 90s in 742, and his son Burjark Jaguar IV. Balaam II was enthroned in October of 681, and he ruled for more than 60 years. During the last third of his reign, he was responsible for a monumental building program that included the erection of magnificent buildings with richly carved lintels, hieroglyphic stairways, and carved stelae. A study of over 110 inscriptions has made it possible to ascertain not only the chronology, but also the major rulers. This gives us a clear view of Yaxchilan as a sophisticated city with complex relationships with other cities. The city was abandoned in 810 AD. Room 1 shows King John Muwan's son's right to rule. There are 77 human figures in this first room. Some are playing rattles, drums, and turtle shells and singing. More musicians blast their trumpets, while other performers wear various costumes. Room 2 shows the greatest battle scene in all of Maya art. It contains 139 human figures. It depicts warriors in the heat of battle. Bodies are intertwined on both the lower and upper registers. Trumpets blast as the battle rages on. There are artistic elements and their symbolic meanings. The ancient Maya believed that to be left-handed was a sign of femininity and weakness. Thus the warriors who are defeated are depicted as left-handed and wearing some element of a bird. The victors are right-handed and wearing some element of a jaguar. King John Muwan is the main figure on the north wall as he stands stately over his captives, some of whom are dead or in agony. The murals in room 3 have suffered the most damage, but they depict a great ceremony. In this last scene, the royal family performs a bloodletting ritual to seal the heir designation ritual. Bonampak is a small site and was probably first occupied as early as 300 AD. By 600 AD, it had become a satellite of Yaxchilan. In that time, the king of Yaxchilan installed Chan Muwan I as lord in Bonampak. The site we see was built around 790 AD and is composed of at least 20 structures arranged on a central acropolis built on a natural hill around a central plaza at the foot of the acropolis. The most famous building of Bonampak is Structure 1, a small 3-room building known as the Temple of the Paintings. The site was abandoned not many years later.
Actually, really quite nice. It's not a jungle hut. See the river right there in front of my cabin? Isn't that nice?
Villacandos are one of the Maya people who live in the jungles of the Mexican state of Chiapas near the southern border with Guatemala. Their homeland, the Lacandon jungle, lies along the Mexican side of the Usumacinta River. Lacandon customs remained close to those of their ancestors, but their old way of life is quickly disappearing. Now the villagers are predominantly Presbyterian and attuned to the modern world, and only some wear the traditionally long white Lacandon tunic.
So we're here now in Guatemala. He's putting all the luggage up on top.
No smelly socks.
We're climbing our first pyramid and we're going to have breakfast on top. Oh, look at one of those. This is temple number 4, or the temple of the double-headed snake. This is the Lost World complex. It probably includes a lot of these other buildings here. That's okay there, Brenda. This is a complex of the Lost World. You can see that pyramid over there. This here is a Great Pyramid. This is the last temple from the Lost World. These are the ruins of the royal palace. No, it's okay. A lot of this still hasn't been restored. This is the plaza of the 7 temples. It looks like plaza of the 7 temples. There's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. This is the central Acropolis, central square. Beautiful temples. This is temple number 1. This is a royal palace over here. And this here is temple number 2. Magnificent sight here. Definitely the highlight of Tikal. Of all of those pyramids, of all of this. This is the royal palace. It looks like there's another little sort of plaza or square in here. Temple number 2. And this is what he said was the necropolis. They found a number of royalty buried in there. And of course, this is temple number 1. Very, very quiet. Nothing was moving in the streets. They had a soccer game there, I guess a club soccer game. I think the local team won. As you can see, it's around 6 o'clock right now, 6:15. We'll be going out for dinner around 7.
The cave was only discovered in 1989 and has been opened to the public since 1998. The Belize Archaeological Society decided to leave the cave just as it was found, so you'll find the Mayan artifacts just the way they were left by the Mayas over 1,000 years ago. Caves such as the ATM cave represent portals to the Maya underworld. They use caves to bring important ritual to the earth gods, but especially to the rain god Chak. They were first used between 300 and 600 AD, but the largest number of artifacts are from between 750 and 850 AD. It was during the decline and abandonment of their cities that the Maya became desperate and felt the need to strengthen their sacrifices to their gods. That included the sacrifice of captives and children to the rain god Chak. This cave gives us an opportunity to glimpse into the Mayan past. I am glad I went to this cave. For me, it turned out to be one of the highlights of the trip, an experience I will never forget. We returned to San Isidro. We had dinner. I was tired, so I turned in early. The next day, Tuesday, February the 21st, we headed out to Key Cocker. The relaxation part of our trip would now begin.
We've arrived in Belize City, and we're now driving down to the wharf to take the ferry or water taxi over to Key Cocker.
The drive to Belize City was not long and uneventful. I was surprised how efficient the porters at the marina were in moving our luggage on and off the water taxi. It was a 45-minute trip to the island. We checked into our hotel. After a group exploration walk, I decided to go down to the dock by the hotel and go swimming. Later, some of us went down to see the sunset, but because there were some clouds, it was a little disappointing. We had dinner later on. The next day, Wednesday, February the 22nd, was going to be another highlight because we would be snorkeling in the second largest barrier reef after the Australian barrier reef.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. And I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, Stars, when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Yes, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
And so we're saying goodbye to Peacocker, a lovely island with lovely people. We had a great time. Okay, yeah, it's not too bad.
Been a long day.
And of course we'll get Russell and Vivian in this too. There's gotta be some other people in here, yeah. Good. Oh, mushroom.
From where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. Damn, who knew all the planes we flew, good things we've been through, that I was standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh. Something told me that it wouldn't last.
Okay, yeah, bye-bye, bye-bye.
In a better place. Oh, how could we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you're gonna be with me for the last ride. It's been a long day without you, my friend.
So what more can I add to what you've already seen just now? It was a marvelous trip, one I will never forget. Young and old, whatever our backgrounds or views, we got along really well. We stood up for one another and we enjoyed each other's company. The highlights for me were Palenque, Tikal, the ATM Cave, and Peacocker. Thank you everyone, and thank you Iris for your able leadership.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong, and what's small turn to a friendship turned to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost.